listening to The Edge, everything bass fishing, coming to you worldwide from Megaware KeelGuard Studios.
Hey, BassEdge Nation, here we go. September 15, episode number 384. Excited about another show here, Aaron. We've got another great lineup for the listeners today.
We do have a great lineup, thanks to you, Kurt, and also thanks to our friends at Megaware KeelGuard. First do-it-yourself keel protector, battery guard, right, for all of these batteries that we're having to put for this forward-facing sonar, flex step. The list goes on and on. Be sure to check out all things Megaware. All things that are needed on your personal watercraft or your boat can be found at MegawareKeelGuard.com. Kurt, last tournament of the year, the last BASS Elite tournament of the year, seemed to be a little drama going on around the weigh-in tanks.
Man, it was a tight event. Shout out to Brian Schmidt on the W. Won by 4 ounces over Chris Johnson. Really just kind of pulled it out on a great first day and last day and hung tough in the middle of that tournament. Aaron, interesting enough, I'm sure you were able to watch some of it as well, but plastics played a big role typically, and frogs played a role in the tournament as well, some swim jig and things like that. But and plastics really took it over. Depressions in the sand flats, fish kind of holding up, looking for just a little bit more water. They had some low water to start the event, and I think that really congregated these fish. You saw some anglers struggle that didn't find these small groups of fish, but man, when some anglers found these smaller groups, they were able to capitalize consistently upon it.
Yeah, kind of one of those times where it seemed like you were either on them or you weren't, so to speak, as far as getting inside that cut, and of course Schmidt coming through and doing it again, and what an angler! Of course, he's been on here several times, Kurt.
Yeah, it was great seeing him, and we'll have him on again. We'll probably dive into this. We'll get him on this fall, talk about some more fall river bass, and Aaron. 2-time now, Brandon Polinick, Angler of the Year of the BASS Elite Series. How about that, man? Brandon Lester, our interview with Brandon last month was a good one. Brandon really laid it out there, and almost, Aaron, he made it really, really close. Had a great event over there at Oahe and on the Mississippi River to really put the pressure on to Brandon. Didn't lock it up, dude, until that third day of the event there at the Mississippi River.
Well, and it's from a spectator standpoint, and being a fan, I think that makes it very interesting when it comes down to the last tournament, the last day even, and it's still kind of anybody's game. Adds a lot of excitement, I guess, to the final weigh-in.
Yeah, it does. We talked about Brandon Lester, making every cut this year, and of course he made both cuts and the top 10 there at the Mississippi River. Dude had the biggest bag of the event the final day, 18 and change. So, dude, Brandon Lester's just on fire. If you haven't gone back to listen to what he has to say, you need to go back and listen. I think it's episode 381, Aaron. I think that's or 382. 381 or 382, but listeners, jump back into a couple episodes there in the archives. Make sure you take a listen to Brandon Lester. He's a hot angler. He's got a lot to say. And once again, congratulations to Brandon Polinick. Dude, can you imagine the pressure guy like that's going through to try to cinch the deal? You're kind of on the edge, but you get it done, right?
Yeah, just at that level to begin with, but then knowing kind of on both sides of Lester, chasing, and then also Polinick being chased. I don't know about you, Kurt, but of course I haven't been chased many times in the sport of fishing, but I would much rather be the one doing the chasing than being chased.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a little bit more pressure being at the top of the standings than trying to track somebody down. So, and I think that came into effect in that event too. Schmidt was just a little bit behind. I think he was in third place going into that final day, and Chris Johnson was trying to close that deal. But you just a little bit more free. I think your mind is in a little bit better. It's easier to have your mind in a better place when you're chasing instead of being chased. So
That's right.
Anyway, talking about chasing, fall fishing, Aaron, as we know, it is here. It's been cool the last couple weeks, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention bassanglermag.com. Go to that website, check it out. Mark Lassane's Bass Angler Magazine, Aaron, they're chock full with some amazing articles in this issue.
Yeah, I mean it's literally cover to cover, and it's good stuff, Kurt. I know it's based out on the West, but when you start looking at the titles on some of these articles that's coming out in the next issue and that have already been out, it's kind of one of those deals to where you sit down and then it's almost like I can't put it down.
Yeah, no question. You got Keith Combs. He's on the cover. Of course, he had a great event in Mississippi, almost won there as well. But he's going to talk about keys to fall cranking. You got Jigs and Trailers with Todd Faircloth, some of the biggest myths in bass fishing. Even talk about sponsorship. You know, Toro's non-endemic decision to come and be a part of the Bass Pro Tour. I mean, they're just like you say, chock full from cover to the back. It's just a great magazine. If you have not checked it out, go take a peek for this fall issue, Bass Angler Magazine and bassanglermag.com. So be sure to take a listen. Talking about Aaron take a read on that one. But talking about taking a listen, we've got a special guest coming up in our next segment, Aaron.
We do. Very, very exciting. Certainly no stranger to the podium and no stranger to BassEdge Radio, Kurt.
Yeah, that's right. So we've got a great feature angler spotlight coming. But first, we're going to jump into some Shimano business. We've got a friend of mine, Drew Sadler, is going to jump on the phone, talk with us real quick about some Shimano products that y'all need to be aware of. Stay tuned. BassEdge Radio. We'll be right back.
Nitro Performance Bass Boats. Get pro-level performance with the Nitro Z18, the official boat of Major League Fishing. The Z18, with its nimble handling and versatility, sports many of the features in the larger boats in the line, like a Guardian Live Well, a heavily insulated cooler, dual 8-foot rod storage, and our smooth and fast NVT hull. Every Nitro boat is laid out to do one thing very well: catch fish. Enormous front decks, up to 45 square feet on the Z21, allow maximum mobility when battling unruly bass, and feature low-profile gunnels for ease of skipping, pitching, flipping, or landing fish. Nitro Performance Bass Boats, pure fishing machines.
Well, Aaron, we have ourselves an expert in Shimano fishing products with this in this special segment. Shimano, known in most angling circles as high-quality fishing gear, some of the most reliable, maybe innovative products that have come through this manufacturer, primarily in the reel segment of the industry. Today, we get to chat with Shimano rep Drew Sadler about reels, but also some exciting new lures in the Shimano lineup as well. Drew, thanks for being on the show. You are a bass fishing stalwart, but most importantly for us today, you are a Shimano expert, man. I appreciate you being on BassEdge Radio.
Kurt, Aaron, I appreciate the time, man. I'm not sure expert is the right word. I've certainly been called a lot worse, but do appreciate the time and happy to be on.
Well, in this crowd, you're a PhD, so you're in good company. But hey, Kurt mentioned, and Drew, ironically, many years ago of my fishing, my first bait casting reels were the old Shimano Curados, just because of the size and man, that was a staple, on my boat day to day. But a lot has changed since then. Shimano is known as a high quality bass fishing brand, and like Kurt mentioned, now into lures. But what is your opinion, and what are the basic fundamentals really that more or less, I guess, sets Shimano apart in the bass fishing rod and reel industry?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the old green Curados. Obviously a big part of my job is to sell product, and there's so many of those old green Curados that are still working, still in rod lockers, still on boat decks. It oftentimes knocks me out of a sale. And you know what? I've never been more proud to be knocked out of a sale because our products are still working that are, 20 plus years old. But what makes Shimano unique is that they're truly a manufacturer. They manufacture all of their own products. And because we manufacture all of our own products in our facilities, we have a lot more control over the design process and R&D. And whenever you talk about that term longevity or durability, and even as it pertains to those old green Curados, and I'm going to bring up bait casters in this category because that is the quintessential item in bass fishing, a bait caster, right?
Sure.
And so still to this day, when you talk about fundamentals or a foundation, the key to longevity in a reel is the right foundation. And even our reels now, starting at the $99 SLX, it starts with the same foundation of a metal frame, brass gears. And that's really just what translates into longevity. Metal frame, keeping everything inside in tight alignment and tolerances, and then brass gears. Obviously, we can use different metals such as aluminum or whatever. Brass is obviously a much denser metal, leads to longer longevity. And that's the foundation that starts with durability and longevity.
Well, both critical elements, obviously, when somebody making an investment in a reel, and that's why I've personally invested in so many Shimano reels over the years, is because of that. I think that word tolerance, you mentioned low tolerance that they have as far as, gears moving around or things wiggling through there, because that's what happens to a lot of those other manufacturers that I've used in the past that Shimano does seem to be just so much more superior to. But Drew, talking about some new products, right? Let's break down the Stella FK spinner reel, one of the highly rated new products of the brand. What gives the Stella FK its class? I see it has, an infinity loop, which helps it oscillate slowly. If anybody spun one of these reels, they see what that oscillation does as it slows down, but continues to spin. It's really absolutely amazing. But also the drag system. Help explain the benefits and what makes this Shimano reel so special.
Man, the Stella is obviously our flagship spinning reel. And honestly, Kurt, there are so many tiny details with the Stella. We could spend an hour talking about it. I mean, we really could.
Right.
But, some of the main features, when you mentioned the infinity loop, what that means is as you turn the reel handle, the spool spinning up and down, it takes it much longer to go up and much longer to go down. So the result of that is a much longer and flatter line lay as you're going up and down the spool. So when you cast, the result of that is when that line is coming off the spool, going up and down, it changes directions far less times, which results in much longer casting distance. They've added some other features such as evening the load on the gears, so that whenever you're cranking that reel handle, you are putting pressure on the gears, but the way we've designed the gears evenly distributes that pressure over the gear's surface. So again, it makes it a lot more durable. And then when you get to Stella is meant to be an experience, right? So you can make reels for functionality, but when you get to the level of Stella, it's made to give you an experience. And so again, when you talk tolerances, that reel has the tightest tolerances of any reel that we make, which just results in incredible smoothness. You don't hear the reel when you're reeling it really fast. It's designed more for the experience.
There's so much talk about drag systems, specifically with spinning reels. What is it about the Shimano drag system? And you hear some great drag system from other manufacturers as well, but what is it about the Shimano drag system that makes it special and peel off so quickly? And then let's back that up with a bait casting question as well, as far as how the drag system works, in that respect in comparison to the spinning reel.
When you get to spinning reels, drag is, obviously very important because it's not like a bait caster. Most time when you're using a spinning reel, you are utilizing the drag to fight a fish, right? Most guys, you're using a bait caster, you crank it down as high as you can go. But with a spinning reel, you're often using lighter line, so the drag is very important. So drag is also important because you want it to be consistent. You don't want it to be, you've got it set at one spot and you're pulling the drag and it's loose, it gets tight, it gets loose again. So it needs to be consistent all the time. So with materials we use, as far as the drag feel, it's designed to give that consistency and also to maintain that consistency over time. Obviously, when you're using different materials in drag, that consistency can change because basically when you tighten the drag on the spinning reel from above, you're compressing those washers inside. So materials you use are very critical as far as how that leads to the longevity of that drag system, and it's maintaining the same resistance over time. So it really comes down to the materials that are used and obviously, again, the longevity of that maintaining over a long period of time.
That's great advice, Drew. And I guess kind of taking it to the other end of the spectrum, right? Here we are, gas is high price, right? Or you've got a new angler, we're on a limited budget, and electronics, to add electronics and forward-facing sonar and power poles and all of these things, we're working from a finite money supplier. At least I am. Kurt's not. He does pretty well. But I'm wondering, when you look at the at the Stella FK price tag. If you're making a selection, what is a great spinning reel and bait caster kind of in that, buyers at that medium price point so that they have more dollars to actually spend on the experience of maybe putting gas in their boat or seeing that forward-facing sonar unit?
There's a lot of options, but with our bait casters, obviously the $99 SLX is very, very similar in build to that old green Corrado. Metal frame, brass gears. It's not overly complex. And by not being overly complex, again, that leads to the durability of it. But at $99, you can get a great reel that's going to last you for a long, long time. That's a regular Shimano SLX. Comes in 3 separate gear ratios, 6, 7, and 8, left hand and right hand. When it comes to spinning, however, we also have a $99 Noski spinning reel, which comes in multiple different sizes. But what's new as of this year, we have a new spinning reel called a Miravel. So the difference between the Noski and the Miravel is that the Miravel will have similar internals as our Noski, such as cold forged gears, but it will also come with a CI4 body. So we are most traditionally known, the term CI4, it was within our Stratic CI4 or our current Vanford CI4. So again, it's a CI4.
I love those, by the way.
Right.
I used to love that CI4. That old CI4 was the deal, bro.
Its name is a brand in itself, right? It just became known for that's what it is because It had the guts, those cold forged gears, but a carbon body, making it much lighter. So now with the Miravel, we're going to have that CI4 body, cold forged gears, an ounce lighter than Noski at $99. But the Miravel will come in at a retail price point of $139.99. So it's going to be for anyone, absolutely anyone, whether you're pan fishing, bass fishing, you're doing some salt stuff. It'll be for anything at a great price point.
Yeah. The cool thing with Shimano is, they have all these technology advancements. You mentioned, they're manufacturing their own stuff. So, from the R&D perspective to what they've done in the past, you don't lose that. It just costs a little bit less. So you can spend $100, $150 to get a product that was top of the line, 7 or 8 years ago from a technology standpoint. And just because the technology is evolving, of course, they have, some great reels that are an experience, as you mentioned, like with the Stella FK. And that's what makes the lineup so good all the way through the whole process, in my opinion. There's a lot of great manufacturers out there, but, just from a Shimano perspective in general. But Drew, I got to ask you this, I've been watching this for I would say the last 18 months or so, but Shimano hard baits, man, the baits, I've seen this flash boost technology, super cool. Seen some other baits have scale boost technology. Understand some of these became available on a limited basis in 2021, but now a much bigger selection of Shimano hard baits have these technologies infused in them. Can you explain these technologies for the listeners and how they're going to assist in catching more fish?
I definitely can. And that's, I'm a bait nerd just like any other bass guy. And when I see something new come out in the marketplace, if it's just like something else, I'm not saying it's not good, but it doesn't catch my attention. But when I see something truly innovative in today's time, when everything has been reinvented 1,000 times, when I see something that's truly innovative, it really gets me excited. And the Flash Boost is definitely something that's truly innovative. So Flash Boost is available in 3 different current Shimano lures right now, in the World Crank, the World Diver, and World Minnow. World Diver and World Minnow are jerk baits. And what that specifically is there's a flat piece of metal in the center of that bait on hinges. So whenever you twitch that bait, or whenever the bait stops moving from action, that flat piece of metal will sit inside the bait and continue to shimmy while the bait is sitting still. So it gives the illusion or look of a flash, again, while the bait is not moving. So that is, again, truly something that no other bait, to my knowledge, has right now. But, again, in today's day and age, if you're going to catch a fish, you either have to trick it or showing something new. And this is something new that you can show fish that they've never seen before, and it's awesome. When it comes to scale boost, that's just a scale pattern that's put on that bait. So on a translucent body, it's going to have some changes in color that will change the way that flash looks under the water. Then you also have Jet Boost, which is just our version of a weight transfer system that's going to allow you to cast the bait farther. You're obviously utilizing weight inside the bait to move from the front to the back during the cast, obviously resulting in a longer cast. But it's just, man, it's something that fish have not seen, and it right now it's unique to the Shimano brand, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that flash boost, if you haven't seen it, Google it up. Flash boost technology, Shimano hard baits. You got to check that out. It's a pretty cool deal.
Well, Drew, just a wealth of information across the board, and we've always known it's been there, like we talked about with the reels and the rods and now the baits. Look forward to seeing those more in the mainstream and actually get to use those. That sounds like really, really neat technology. Any closing thoughts before we shut down?
No, man, like I said, I appreciate the time to be on. And, man, again, when it comes to the Shimano brand, it's a brand I have used since I was a kid. To have the opportunity to, obviously work for Shimano now and sell it, it's a dream come true. But, again, what it results in is Shimano is truly their manufacturer. They started as a bicycle gear manufacturer, which translated into fishing gears. And that's the key, man. When you think about it, a gear is the heart of any reel. And if you can make gears the right way, that's what a fishing reel is. It's in the gears.
Perfectly said. Drew, thanks so much for being here. We're going to transition into this episode's featured angler spotlight right after this message.
I am BASS Elite Series Angler Matt Airy.
This is Bassmaster Elite Series Pro Bill Owen.
This is BASS Elite Series Angler KJ Queen.
This is BASS Elite Series Pro Jake Whitaker.
I am Pro Angler Brett Height. Stay tuned for more BassEdge Radio.
Know the importance of protecting your investments, so why use anything else other than the original and toughest DIY keel protector for your boat, Megaware KeelGuard. Grinding sand, abrasive rocks, and concrete ramps are no match for our exclusive contoured edge and patented technology. Megaware KeelGuard keel protectors are made tough and made to stick. Their do-it-yourself installation takes less than an hour, providing the longest-lasting, most dependable keel protection for your boat, guaranteed for life. Developed specifically by boat builders offering the best keel protection in the industry. Also from Megaware KeelGuard, Skeg Guard, Flex Step Pro, and Pontoon Guard. So give your boat the performance edge. Put on the protection the pros pick. Megaware KeelGuard.
Today we got a super hot stick from the Bass Pro Tour as our featured angler spotlight. Coming off a win last month in New York, his third major event victory in 2 years, his fifth since starting his career back in about 2015. We're going to dive into some of his successful strategies on the BBT Tour and some late summer fishing tactics. Great to have back on the program, Dustin Connell. Man, awesome to have you again here on BassEdge Radio.
Yes, sir, man. I really appreciate you guys having me, and it's good to be back. Good to be back. It's been a while, and I'm ready to talk a little bit about how I won Cayuga and get into a few other topics.
We are excited, Dustin, and to say that you've turned the corner in your career, I think is a total understatement. You're kind of in a different stratosphere right now. You've always been, kind of that fairly consistent angler throughout your career, but now you're closing the deal way more often and showing real versatility and just your strategic approach to tournaments and getting it done. Maybe share with us kind of how you arrived to where you're at right now. We all want to be champions, but you have become multiple times, and that's just not an easy thing to do on the world's biggest stage.
I'm going to try to keep this answer as short as I can, but I will say this. I think you just mature as an angler, as a fisherman. You mature as in making decisions on the water. You don't tend to go off of emotions. You kind of run off of, hey, I'm letting the fish tell me where to go. I don't go out there hoping, man, I hope I have a good day. Like, I pretty much know what I'm on, what I can go do. And if I know that that's not a winning deal, then I will go somewhere else. And it is kind of a blessing and a curse. That kind of mindset. You watch that movie 10 Cup,
Right.
And I've always had like a 10 Cup mentality. And that's why you see me in my point standings. I'm like, all right, I'm either going to bomb or I'm going to win. And I've always had that mentality at my house because, like, you got to understand, man, I've not been on this game, like professional fishing, a long, long time. I've been out here for 5 or 6 years. I fished my first pro level tournament actual on the Elite Series in 2017. So what is that? My time's getting away from me.
Yeah, 5 years.
6 years ago, yeah. So I came from fishing local levels where second place paid $600. you split that with your partner, and you don't come home with nothing. And then first place, you would get Trident Gold money and stuff like that. So it was like, dude, you're either going to win or lose. Now I'm starting to understand points matter, checks matter. You know, working for your sponsors and going out there and having really good finishes matter. But those wins, man, they're super big. And I don't know. I just feel like maturing as an angler, that's just, I'm getting older. I'm slowing down.
Slowing down. It sounds to me like you're speeding up a little bit in the right areas. So Dustin, it's so cool to see and watch that progression. I remember when you won the in Mississippi at Ross Barnett, you had a great deal going on there, kind of a river fishing where you grew up there in the Alabama River, obviously, but you were doing some punching, some different things up there, but you were kind of really laying it off to your roots. You know, now, dude, there's just so many different things. You know, you won the Red Crest on the jerkbait, and then you won this Cayuga event last week on smallmouth, man. I mean, just going a totally different level. First, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about this Every Fish Counts format. I mean, it's been good for you. It's been really, really good for you. It seems that anglers are having to adjust to arrive in that winner's circle there on the Bass Pro Tour. Do you feel that there's a pattern or a winning pattern or a winning way in that Bass Pro Tour? I mean, obviously your roommate is also very successful with it, Jacob Wheeler. And, I'm seeing guys that really push themselves to win the group in those first two competition days or, over a 4-day period, obviously, depending on what group you're in. But, that try to advance that straight to that championship round tend to struggle a little bit, man. Do you feel like just managing your fish and staying on the water is more important to winning a Bass Pro Tour event?
Seeing how these events unfold, I watch them, while I'm on the water.
Sure.
And I'm always paying attention to how and where and what is going down. So Cayuga in particular, now this goes for other tournaments too, but I like all these guys are on the north end of the lake. You could honestly look across this north end and see who was where, what they're catching, whatever. I knew exactly where Lucas was fishing, and he was over there near a place that I was at. And I saw him and he was catching them. But I knew the other guys had to have found that. And this Group A, Group B deal, man, that's the unknown about this format.
Right.
You may have a group, for example, you may be in Group B and you think you found the juice. Well, somebody just smashed them on it. On Group
right,
A.
Right.
And you deal with pressured fish. And I could tell. Doing what I was doing, nobody was messing with those smallmouth. Nobody was doing it. And I was like, wow. Because after that Group B day, goes, you can kind of understand what the lake's doing. And there is a strategy to this. Jacob is one of the best, people to strategize. That he understands this game. He understands, all right, Group A, Group B, I can't look at this. So we were in Group A in this group. We had first crack in a lot of the community areas. You could run to a community spot and smash them on Group A. Group B, you don't have that luxury.
Right.
So basically, to shorten up my response, because I'll talk y'all's head off today, but I would say staying on the water a lot of times, and even in 5-fish limit tournaments, they are won during the tournament. The guy finds the pattern or a place during the tournament. So I love fishing knockout rounds. I found the winning school at Smith Lake during the knockout round. Right. This tournament is a little different, but staying on the water always helps.
Well, I love that response.
I thought it was interesting in that particular Cayuga event last month, obviously Lucas, he went straight to the championship, and Michael Neal went straight to the championship. Michael Neal was on kind of that more diversified approach. Obviously you caught more smallmouth, E-Bear caught more smallmouth, but Neal even in his group round, he caught a lot of smallmouth, but man, it seemed like you guys that can stay on the water through that knockout round, like you say, kind of continue to evolve your approach, dial it in a little bit more, expand as well at the same time. That seems like it's the way to win
championships on that Bass Pro Tour.
Absolutely.
Hey, Dustin, on kind of a takeoff of what we just talked about there with being on the winning fish, what made you go all smallies, there at Cayuga? Is that something you specifically targeted all of practice, or kind of what made that decision for you during the tournament?
So this tournament, like, we go into each lake and everyone has like a preconceived notion. And I've always tried to ignore that, but there was an outside chance. I felt like everybody knew going into this tournament that smallmouth is kind of a dark sleeper. That is kind of like, hey, they catch them there. They call a state record there, but I don't think there's a lot of numbers. And in this format, you have to catch a lot of fish, I mean, you don't really have to catch a lot, but you better reel in more than 5 in a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was kind of a mixture might help, but I don't think smallmouth is a safe bet. That isn't the whole going for par deal, So anyway, this is how this kind of happened. I had been on some Cayuga one other time. I had caught 2 bass in a cup event in August. It was horrible. The only people that caught them were Aaron Martins and Jacob Perez, and they were on the juice out in the middle of that grass flat. So anyway, I go to the lake beside Cayuga, Oswego. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
So first of all, I go to Skinny Atlas. I fished the tournament on Skinny Atlas. A lot of smallmouth, ton of smallmouth on that place. Not a lot of really giant ones, but good ones. So I go to Skinny Atlas. I go there and I catch some 2s. I catch a few 3s. And then I go to Oswego. And, dude, I freaking crushed them. Like, it was like, oh, my gosh. I'm racking in my brain like, okay, how is the numbers on Oswego and the numbers on Skinny Atlas? I mean, it's like kind of a process of elimination. They just caught the state record on this lake, Cayuga. I look at past tournaments. You see Zaldane out here catching smallmouth, and he don't have forward-facing sonar. He doesn't have any of that stuff, and he's just doing this stuff, just reeling around. I'm like, dude, we're going to have to check this out. So I go out there and I practice. I pan around. I go to this place. I go to this grass line, and I see a couple fish. I drop on it. I caught a 6'5" smallmouth. There was 10 with him. I said, oh, no. I said, oh, my gosh, why are y'all doing this to me? So I left that place and went somewhere that looked identical to it. I caught a 4-pounder. I caught a 5-pounder. I went another place. I caught a 4-pounder, and then started getting that feeling that like, how it is when you're in a tournament. You're like, oh, this could happen. Oh, then you start worrying.
Yeah, like is that the phantom bite, right? Or is that just some phantom fish?
Rabbit hole.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
please don't lead me down this rabbit hole. I've been here before, and it happened early in practice, and I was like, don't get locked in. So I went and practiced strictly for smallmouth that day. The next day of practice, I practiced all largemouth to have a backup. So that's how it happened.
That's super cool. Super cool. Just so that listeners know, Oswego and Skinny Atlas are also small finger lakes in that same region of the country that Dustin, I guess you put some time there, obviously before the event, just kind of getting in tune of the geographic region. Is that an appropriate way to say that?
Yes. I just wanted to kind of feel out the area and get dialed in a little bit. See what fish are. I mean, if there's a lake 20 miles from another place, they're probably doing similar things.
Totally agreed. Is that a tactic that you take with you often fishing, tournaments now that you'll go a few days, right? I mean, you got these huge off limits periods, right? You've got these no information rules. You got all these things that you need to abide by through all the tournament circuits, whether it's the Bass Pro Tour, the Elite Series, Pro Circuit, on down the list. There's different rules for different events. In the Bass Pro Tour, specifically the no information rule. So you're putting time in. Is this a regular basis that you're doing this to try and, jump on a lake somewhere close by to kind of help you gauge the patterns, conditions, those types of things?
I've tried to make it a point every week. I went yesterday. But I make it a point every week, either prior. I go all the time. But if I have an idea of what fish are going to be doing, I try to duplicate that. So, yesterday I made a trip out here to Lake Jordan on the Coosa River. I got all my electronics dialed in. I know smallmouth are going to play big at Mille Lacs. I did the same thing at Cayuga. I knew deep grass, potentially smallmouth. I'm out there cranking. I'm rigging up all these drop shots. I'm trying to figure out what worm color I like best.
Right.
And I did that same thing like at Oswego. It's the same thing as far as going into like a sight fishing tournament. Before you're going into a sight fishing tournament, you try to go get somewhere and get dialed in, get in that mindset. And that's really good for any angler.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Before we go to break, I'm going to tap into this Cayuga smallmouth deal one more time. You're finding these groups of smallmouth. You talk about grass edges. We heard a lot about that. What other kind of cover was available for them? Were you basically just panning the edge of these? I mean, essentially, just so the listeners understand, Cayuga's a finger lake. It's basically an old glacier lake, right? Or an old glacier that's run through there, and it's crazy deep in the middle. Dustin, what do you got, like 400 and some feet in the dead nuts middle of that place?
Yeah, so these smallmouth, they use these grass lines on Cayuga as kind of like highways. And there's certain little stopping places for them. They did not want to be in the grass. A lot of these guys were fishing strictly in the grass. Every now and then you see guys just randomly catch a smallmouth, or you hear about it, or
right.
And that was just a smallmouth that was roaming, and they accidentally cast it on the grass line. They don't really want to be all the way in that. I feel like they feel like they're vulnerable, so they cruise those outside grass lines, any kind of stopping point, whether it's a gravel bottom. I don't know what gravitates them to these areas, but I have found where they stopped and floated, I guess you would say, or either they just roamed in these certain little spots. It's similar to the St. Lawrence River when you see like a sand spot. Like there's a light spot and they just gravitate to that. Well, I had done practice and did this for like 10 or 12 hours during practice. I mean, hell, it don't get dark up there till 9:30 at night.
Right.
So I'm sitting there practicing for 10 or 12 hours, and I'm running all this stuff, and I'm looking, and I'm trying to understand it all. And I would run back through areas to try to see if they were still on them or if was this a fluke. Dude, I would come back to the exact spot. There was nothing on the bottom, and they were sitting on that exact same place. And I'm like, why are you there? And what it was bait, and it was that perfect grass. And it had the perfect depth. It had to be like 23 to 25, somewhere through there. I mean, I caught some out in 35 and 40 too, but
sure,
that was what was gravitating those fish there. Any kind of other structure, whether it was an old center block, I probably had 25 places that were just structure. And now we're in a glacier lake, but people still throw out old tires and stuff like that.
Right.
So I had a lot of man-made stuff that I had just found. I mean, it didn't matter if it was an old limb that blew off the bank out in like 15 foot. There was a smallmouth sitting on it.
That's really cool. That's great information, man. Appreciate you sharing that. Hang in there, Bass Edge listeners. 2022 two-time Bass Pro Tour champion Dustin Connell will return after we power pole down for a brief moment. Hang tight. We're going to be right back.
Patented in 2000, perfected over years of testing and real-world punishment, the Power Pole is the ultimate shallow water boat positioning tool. Swift, Power Pole deploys in seconds from anywhere in your boat. Virtually silent, Power Pole won't spook wary fish. Secure in strong current or gusting winds in up to 8 feet of water. Engineered to take it with a lifetime unconditional replacement guarantee on the spike. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Visit powerpole.com to find a dealer near you.
Bass Edge is presented in part by Mercury Marine, returning with MLF Bass Pro Tour champion Dustin Connell in this episode's featured angler spotlight. Mercury Marine, go boldly.
Dustin, as you mentioned there in the first half of the interview, you're getting ready to roll out to Mille Lacs. We super appreciate you jumping on before you head over there to that tournament, man. Your roommate Jacob Wheeler basically's got AOI wrapped up. It's not mathematically done, but and you're also looking pretty good in the AOI standings. We mentioned you've won 2 events this year. You're sitting in 20th position. Mathematically, there's some movement that could go on there. What are you looking to do to lock up that 2023 Red Crest qualification? And do you see this as a fall event going up there to Minnesota in the middle of September, or do you think it's going to be more kind of late summer patterns holding true for you over there?
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to Mille Lacs. That place is really special. I fished there 4 or 5 times, and it is unbelievable. As far as Jacob goes, I'll start with the first subject.
Okay.
Jacob, I pretty much hand him the trophy now. It's done. It's done deal. Unless his boat or something sinks out there, which I highly doubt that because he's running a Triton. But
I remember one year that Van Dam was trying to win AOY, and I think somebody I have no clue, but I remember this. I recall somebody slashed his tires. He rolled to the ramp on rims, like one of the last events. That is just absolutely terrible. But some crazy circumstance, like you're mentioning, something would have to just be crazy unfortunate for Jacob not to take it. But anyway, I wanted to add that in there. That just reminded me of that because you were talking about it. It would have to be something crazy. And I was like, I remember something crazy.
He's unbelievable. He's one of my best friends. And I'm telling you, I pat him on the back all the time. I say, look, man, you've arrived, and I hate to go on a tangent here. I've known Jacob since we both qualified for the Elite Series.
Right.
And if you rewind back, Jacob had won the Forestwood Cup. And I've talked to him about this, but Jacob did not just go on a tear right after the Cup. It ain't like he just won everything in sight,
Sure.
I mean, he had a lot of really great finishes, but these past few years, it's the same thing Kevin did when he won AOY 4 times in a row or something, and you see guys go on these runs. And I told him, I said, I don't see you slowing down none, because it don't matter if he's got a flipping stick in his hand, a drop shot, a jerk bait, it don't matter. He is very, very good at all things.
Yeah.
I am very good at offshore fishing and stuff like that. I'm good at flipping, swimming, and jig, but my downside is I hate sight fishing. It ain't that I'm not good at it. I hate it. He likes doing everything and he's good at everything. But anyway, enough with Jacob. I'm tired of talking about him.
Let me just throw this out there real quick. Dude, it is so cool to see your all's relationship. When you win at Cayuga, he's genuinely excited for you, proud of you as a buddy, just happy to say, hey, my boy Dustin got it done. And that is so great to see you guys have that camaraderie. You're happy for him when he does well. You push him, he pushes you. It's great to see what you guys got going on. So I just want to mention that real quick, because oftentimes in this deal, it gets so cutthroat and it's just good to see. So I'll leave it at that.
Man, the realities of this game we play, and I say this with humility too, but man, you have no idea, and I'm keeping it real for you guys. I'm glad that y'all brought me on, but you have no idea how much hate that goes on between that house that we stay in. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's, and you got Jacob here winning tournament. You finished first and second. You got some of these anglers out here that are just absolute crybabies. And I'm sorry, y'all may have to edit that out of the video, but out of the podcast. But my goodness, man. I mean, I'm sitting out there catching smallmouth and Jacob's catching all largemouth. And, and it's just a special, fun deal. And we just work hard, man. And the biggest thing with Jacob is, and not even Jacob, Mark and Adrian stay with us too, but we all push each other. You always need someone to push you, whether it's your mom, your dad, your coworkers, and he motivates me to become better. I motivate everyone else. And it's the same way at a local level. If you go out there and fish against the same buddies and you win with 9 pounds or 12 pounds, that is your new normal, that is good. But you have that local hammer show up and he wins every tournament with 17 pounds. It pushes you to become better, smarter, faster.
Yes.
You jump outside the box. So just collaborating with them and Jacob makes me a better fisherman. So yeah, it's a special deal, and I'm proud for him. I'm gonna be there when he does the AOY deal too.
Dustin, I certainly appreciate you going off on that tangent. Kurt and I, as as we prepare for these shows, and that we never know where it's going to go. And man, that little segment right there was unique. And that's one I'm going to remember for a long time, because there's so much information in that. And let's kind of transition over into taking what you just said into kind of the patterns of September. There's multiple options. It doesn't even really have to do with just September. There's always multiple options and patterns of how to catch fish. But what my question is, what can lead us and BassEdge listeners to quality fish or a quality finish? Do you kind of stick with the strengths in your opinion, or do you advise to say, you know what, break outside of kind of that comfort zone? And what you just said, if you've got a local hammer that can go out and catch 18 pounds when everybody else is catching 15, do you kind of abandon what you're good at and try to go pursue that?
I really just think it just depends on what you want to do. Going outside the box has always been risky. You got high risk, high reward sometimes. If you take that high risk, you may fall on your face, and everybody looks at you like, wow, what happened? For me, I've always kind of wanted to be the bold person. I want to be bold. It all depends on your personality. But, for example, I'm going to go to Mille Lacs, and I feel like I'm pretty well inside the Red Crest cut,
Yep.
I'm not going to think about that. I don't try to look at points, and maybe I should more, because I would do a lot better in the points, and that'll come down the line. But I want to go out there and try to win the tournament. And if I fall on my face trying to win, I can at least say, hey, you threw it in there. You went big. If I go out there laying up and then fall short, oh my gosh, I'm ready to sell all my stuff, So that's where I'm at with it. Like, I'm not going to drive 20 hours to lay up. Why lay up? Go out there. If you need to make Mille Lacs in this case, it's not giant, but if I need to make a 78-mile run one way and lose 30 minutes of fishing and take a risk to go win, I'm doing it. So it just depends on your personality, I would say.
Yeah, Mille Lacs is going to be an interesting one. Obviously, it's got lots of largemouth up shallow vegetation. You got smallmouth probably still. I'm going to, who knows what kind of pattern they're going to be in, right? But obviously smallmouth live deep at times of the year. Where do you feel like that's going to put your strengths when you kind of have those? We talked about it earlier. You mentioned, you've got to go in an event with some kind of notion of how you're going to, start attacking a tournament. What are you looking at when you go up to a northern fishery this time of year? Some fish kind of doing that fall thing, but some fish still in that late summer pattern.
I love this time of year. I love when the days are getting shorter. I feel like Mille Lacs, for me, now some of these guys, they're going to do their strength, go largemouth fishing or whatever they want to do. For me, I will strictly smallmouth fish. I will have 7 or 8 hex spinning rods on my deck, and then I will go out there and I'm going to idle around and find as many isolated places as I can. And the outside chance of finding like 4 or 5 schools of fish, man, Mille Lacs is amazing. And I went there to go pre-fish. Dude, they get grouped up there, and you can find certain little places. I mean, you see it in our past tournaments where guys just every cast. Right. And I will smallmouth fish. I think a lot of that tournament will be predominantly shallower, within 15 foot. I don't see a ton of guys sitting out there in 20.
Well, it's a natural lake, and I think that's probably pretty common for that type of fishery, right?
Yeah. And in the fall, and you got to understand, them fish up there, man, they chew some crawfish. They eat crawfish. I swear I think that is the predominant forage for them. Every fish you see is spitting up crawfish. And that's not no secret, but I'm like, I might need to tie on some crawfish baits here in a little bit,
Right.
So, that's going to be a great tournament. If I had to pick certain depth, I'd say like 10, 12 foot. That's probably going to be a really good depth to be fishing in.
That's cool. It's going to be fun to watch that go down. Let's talk some about largemouth fishing. Obviously, you live there in Alabama. Alabama River's where you grew up, mostly spotted bass fishing, but so much, of the focus from a listener standpoint is on the largemouth side. Shallow water tends to be maybe a little bit more reliable during, this mid to late September time frame when anglers are hitting their home bodies of water. What cover scenarios where you seek out in locating September bass? What techniques are you going to lean on?
So where I live on the Coosa River. I fish the Alabama River, and I'm always looking for current. where I'm from. And if they're running water, these fish really gravitate toward current. It's cooler water. It has more oxygen. There's more bait in it. I would say during mid to late September, that is the toughest time to catch fish around the southeast. I think everybody can agree. I really try to throw a lot of top water. I throw a jerk bait a lot in September. The water's cooling. You'll see a transition from that main lake stuff. I've read in Bassmaster magazines all my life of that fall transition. And that's a real thing, like it happens. You see all the bait start easing in those backs of them pockets. They start easing in those creeks. I just follow the bait. It's the best time of year to do that. When I see the bait start easing inside those creek mouths, I ease in with them. So just follow the bait. That's what I do.
Justin's on kind of following the bait. Do you believe that the deep bite or kind of that offshore bite is somewhat of a new trend for fall with, the forward-facing sonar? And do you think that anglers in the South, like you mentioned, that the largemouth impoundments will be kind of targeting those suspended fish with their sonar now?
That is a untapped, I guess you say, technique. I think the word's kind of out now, and I really wish it wouldn't. That's an untapped deal. We've always not really understood suspended fish. And when I say suspended fish, I mean moving, swimming, suspended fish, not ones that are floating around where you can just catch them, potentially. Right. Follow them around, forward-facing sonar. I don't care what anybody says, is the best invention in bass fishing ever. It's way better than the Alabama rig. It takes a lot of guesswork out of the deal. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to always just catch them. It ain't like, I hear a lot of controversy. I could post a whole YouTube video on controversies over forward-facing sonar. And I'm telling you, the guys that are whining are the ones that have never used it. It is incredible how good and efficient it is. And it is not the end-all, be-all. But it helps me be more precise. I've won a ton of tournaments without forward-facing sonar. I've only had it a year on my boat, but I've won a ton of tournaments fishing offshore with it. Following bait in these fall time late season deals is going to change a lot of places, a lot of fisheries. They do that on every lake that's fairly clear. So there's some lakes that may just get exposed, and that might be the new deal. So I don't know. It's just that's a very popular thing now.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of obviously the trending method. It's who is going to take it to really, like you mentioned, expose it so that more people start trying to do it. I mean, we're seeing that now with, like these Champlain events, this summer, weights like we never saw. We talked to Kurt Mitchell about it last month, earlier this month, actually, and how that whole thing kind of has transpired. You look at everything that's going on with, all this summertime smallie thing, and it just seems like the perfect transition into this fall largemouth fishing, right? I mean, we've struggled to catch 10, 15 pounds. In the backs of creeks, running bait, kind of doing that kind of thing. Is somebody going to be able to utilize that forward-facing sonar, stay out on the main lake where maybe some of these fish are rising out of the brush, haven't moved back into the creeks, but still chasing shad that are staying out there on that main body of water and start being able to crack 18, 20 pounds in months that you used to never see that kind of thing, right?
That's the new norm, I think. I've been trying to do it here on the Coosa River. I went yesterday. It was 93 degrees, and I did that exact thing. I went out there. I did not go run brush. I went to areas where brush were at, but I just was looking, went checking, and I ain't saying they was there or wasn't, but you have to understand what these fish do. They chase bait. They do not sit stationary. They literally will swim 2 miles and 10 miles in a day chasing bait. That's just what they do. And the same way with these herring lakes, anywhere you have threadfin, alewives, that's what they do in the summertime months, whether it's 30 feet or 10. So that's a very, very good deal.
It's going to be interesting how, does that end up just being we're all just staring at our graphs and we just end up out in the middle of La La Land, or will it be some deal where you end up following some kind of contours, like you say, getting on a big point where there's a lot of brush, and yes, the fish are still out there moving around, in and out, as an ambush area, because that's where the bait are floating up from, where they've been in, June, July, and August. But now that it's getting fall, shorter days, all that stuff starts to rise. So definitely something to be on the front end of.
Yeah, we've got probably, I'm going to give it, I don't know, a couple more years of this big craze of forward-facing sonar and stuff like that until everything evens out. It's just progression. It's I guess you would say evolution of fishing. It happens in businesses. It's called competition. So when all these other anglers, they dial that pattern in, it's going to get harder and harder to catch them. And then you're going to see guys like Randall Tharp busting them on a jig on the bank because everybody's out there staring at the jig, staring at the ground. So it's just progression of the sport. And I hear all this. Y'all need to have a podcast on forward-facing sonar. I would be a perfect guest because I could go into a rant and then I could go into I understand mode too. So
yes. I like it. We'll have to do a round table like that. Get 2 or 3 people on at once, so it'll be like 4 or 5 of us and
call
just going
Randy
back.
Block it up. I would love to talk to Randy about it. I would love it. Oh, I'm begging y'all.
Oh man, that'd be great. All right, Dustin, we're going to roll into our listener question. This part of the show is brought to us by Nitro Performance Bass Boats. And this question comes from Dylan Thompson out of Texas. Dylan, probably watching some of that Mississippi River Elite Series event, has gotten some folks shallow Carolina rig fishing. Dylan asked this: recently noticing the effectiveness of the Carolina rig fishing in really shallow water around edges of vegetation during the late summer. Why do you feel this technique is so effective, and what are some other likely areas I will find fish using it?
I would say probably, this time of year, these fish, they're deep, they're very sluggish, they're not very, very active. So throwing like a Carolina rig is perfect for this time of year. It's slow, and you're down there where you need to be at. So that's why it's probably a great deal to do. Other likely areas I would say is, drag that thing off of a long running point. Get away from that grass. You may get around a gravel bottom, or a sandy bottom. Just try different depths. If that grass comes out to 7-8 foot, try to find some deeper grass at the lower end of the lake or something. So if the fish are strictly relating to that grass, you may pull that Carolina rig up and just try a wacky rig, stuff like that. So just alternate between baits. But summertime, the fish are slow and sluggish.
Good stuff. I certainly like and appreciate, Dustin, your comment about the long tapering points. I just know, like on lakes like Table Rock, the Highland Reservoirs, Bull Shoals, things like that, you get out on those tapering points like that, and you're liable to run across largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, all in the same pocket of fish there schooling. So anyway, great stuff. Thanks for answering that question, Dylan. We need one more thing from you, and that is to simply log on to BassEdge.com, click the Claim Your Prize tab, fill out the information, and let us know that you heard Dustin answer your question right here on episode 384, and we are going to get the Midway USA gift card sent directly to you.
And as always, Bass Edge Nation listeners, go to our website, BassEdge.com. Simply click Ask the Pros tab. If your question is heard on the show, you will win the next Midway USA gift certificate. You can also find some posts there on our Instagram page and Facebook page. Just simply comment your question there at the bottom. We'll get them answered here on the show. And just remember that Midway USA, where they have just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors.
Well, Dustin, again, great to have you on the program. I really appreciate, for all of us here at Bass Edge, and I'm sure Bass Edge Nation, your ability to kind of dive into some things that might be a little edgy. Really appreciate that, and certainly the knowledge base. Man, what a show. Any closing thoughts, before you close this down and head off to Minnesota?
Well, I just, I appreciate you guys having me, and I'm just ready to get relaxed. We have that one last time of the year. All you guys can stay tuned. We start the 10th of September, and that goes through the 15th. So I think it's going to be a great tournament. A lot of big smallmouth going to get caught. Also, we have got a series we're going to do on YouTube. If you haven't already, you guys check out some of the videos we do. It's at DC Fishing. And we're going to document the whole deal. It'll be a fun fun week and relax. But other than that, I appreciate you guys having me, and I hope to be back soon.
Absolutely, Dustin. Thanks again for stopping in. Always fun breaking it down with some bassin' know-how with you right here on Bass Edge Radio. Everyone hold tight as Aaron and I break down the show with some closing thoughts right after this short break.
You know the importance of protecting your investments, so why use anything else other than the original and toughest DIY keel protector for your boat, Megaware KeelGuard. Grinding sand, abrasive rocks, and concrete ramps are no match for our exclusive contoured edge and patented technology. Megaware KeelGuard keel protectors are made tough and made to stick. Their do-it-yourself installation takes less than an hour, providing the longest-lasting, most dependable keel protection for your boat, guaranteed for life. Developed specifically by boat builders offering the best keel protection in the industry. Also from Megaware KeelGuard, Skeg Guard, Flex Step Pro, and Pontoon Guard. So give your boat the performance edge. Put on the protection the pros pick. Megaware KeelGuard.
The PowerPole Charge Marine Power Management Station is the most advanced system of its kind available on the market. It does the work of 3 devices, a traditional battery charger, a charge on the run, and an emergency start system, all in one compact unit. The Charge lets you run your boat's accessories the way you want to run them by allowing you to monitor and control your power usage through the PowerPole app. It automatically devotes power to the batteries that need it the most for maximum efficiency. The new Charge from PowerPole. Power where you need it, power how you need it, power when you need it.
Kurt, enjoyed hearing from Drew there at Shimano. Obviously, just a staple in the fishing reel market, but then also kind of bringing in the baits. Yeah, that's kind of new territory for them.
Yeah, I think they've had baits for a good time, but mostly just available in the Japanese domestic market, right? So they're starting to, I guess, expand some of their things, which you see a lot of that, man. You see some apparel coming out from a lot of manufacturers really expanding in that realm, and now you're seeing like Shimano bring in baits, which they hadn't done a whole lot in the USA market. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. I love the technology, love the new innovative stuff that any bait company is bringing to the table, but specifically with the technology we discussed with Drew, it's different, man. And always other manufacturers take notice. So I think we'll start to see more innovation like that when you put some type of reflective material inside a bait with some movement and that kind of thing, because that's kind of the way our industry goes, right?
Right. Right. There's always somebody out there trying to take it to the next level, and somebody else who kind of alluded to that was our featured angler spotlight, Dustin Connell. First tournament, 2017, and then going and talking about his maturation as an angler and kind of removing the emotion. It's 5 years. We're not talking about like he's been at this for 35 years.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, we talked about any Bass Edge Nation that really enjoyed this interview with Dustin. Go back. I don't know how many moons ago it was, Aaron, but there's another episode with Dustin that we did back in, I believe it was 2017, his rookie year, when he won that spring on Ross Barnett Reservoir. You'll be able to hear the maturation that he discussed in his fishing in his interview skills.
No,
right?
No question.
I mean, it's just changed completely. Of course, he won an Open a couple years before that in 2015 while he was just coming out of college at the University of Alabama. Now, since he won the Red Crest in 2021 there at Lake Eufaula, really just these young anglers and, being able to capitalize on new technology, taking it to levels that we haven't seen. I think, Aaron, we tapped into that a little bit with that fall fishing segment. He talked about doing that on the water just recently, looking for those fish that used to ghost us, right? They used to ghost us out there on the main lake, following shad around. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. What's your thought?
Yeah, I would agree, and it's certainly like he said. He's like, I wish it was still a secret, because there were a few people that were dialed into those, and I liked his comment of going to bomb or I'm going to win. He's like, why would I drive 47 miles to go be mediocre? So a couple of very interesting tidbits. And, Kurt, another great episode. I know in between this recording and our next, I believe you are on your way to the Red River, and I will be on my way to Lake of the Ozarks. So thoughts there before we shut down?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna lock a buzzbait in my hand. I'm gonna go looking for some of these shallow fish. River systems definitely different than natural impoundments. That's one thing, not like Mille Lacs, which we discussed with Dustin, but also a reservoir. Totally different stuff. So these two tournaments that I'm been embarking on, shallow river fisheries still have that old school play, right? It's not always all about forward facing sonar. Don't let our podcast or our discussions fool you, but that is definitely the new trending way of a lot of fishing. But man, I'm staying shallow. I'm in these river systems, shallow cover, fall transition. I'm excited about it. How about you? You're doing the Toyota tournament later on this year. I remember somebody wrote.
Yeah, it's a Toyota tournament. That'll be in October. But first, I'll be going to the BFL.
You got one the same weekend. Yeah, September 24th, 25.
At Lake of the Ozarks. Kind of that
2-day
super tournament. I'm going to be doing probably the same thing, trying to stay shallow. I will, it is on my boat, forward-facing sonar. I will be using it. But yeah, I'm going to go and try and stick with generally what works that time of year. Everything for me will be dock related.
Ploppers. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
You might be able to use that forward facer, underneath those docks and be able to eliminate some docks or some good. Do you feel like they get ganged up underneath those docks this time of year?
I do.
Okay.
The right fish that you're looking to win the tournament, first you want that kind of that harder bottom below those docks, those gizzard shad. When you start seeing those big gizzard shad in those little schools, those little wolf packs running around, those big bass are keying on it. Like I said, you don't get a lot of bites, but we'll see. Time will tell, as always, Kurt. So anyway,
good luck, my friend. Good luck.
Likewise. Looking forward to catching up with you on the October 1st episode. In the meantime, for Kurt Dove, I am Aaron Martin. Stay up on all things Bass Edge through our social media outlets and certainly through the website. For the rest of the Bass Edge crew, we are wishing you a wonderful 2 weeks and look forward to connecting again on October 1st with episode 385. So long, everybody.
The Edge is presented by Megaware KeelGuard. For more information on BassEdge or to shop at the BassEdge online store, visit BassEdge.com and be sure to join Kurt Dove and Aaron Martin right here on another episode of The Edge, brought to you in part by Nitro Boats, Midway USA, Mercury Marine, PowerPole.